police asset forfeiture has been a story that we have covered for years. It is one where civil rights activists and libertarians, many folks who are conservative, have been on the same issue. In fact, the Koch brothers, their nonprofit, they actually have been opponents of police forfeiture. It is an issue where many police departments, what they have been doing is literally funding their departments all across the country with asset forfeiture, taking cars, taking money, taking jewelry. It is a major, major issue here in America. Now the question is, how does it stop? How can we change it? Well, in Pennsylvania, this is one of the issues that they have been dealing with as well. A recent report by the Institute for Justice discovered that Philadelphia police have been abusing its civil forfeiture program. Again, it allows officers to seize things such as money or property from citizens that officers believe are involved in criminal activity, even if they're not convicted. Now, these people have not been arrested or charged with a crime for police to keep or sell the items. For 2012 and 2014, Philadelphia police seized $50 million in cash, 1,240 properties, and 3,530 vehicles, according to a report released by the Institute for Justice. This practice definitely impacts low-income and disadvantaged communities the most. Joining me now is Representative Donna Bullock. She is the chair of the Pennsylvania Legislative Black Caucus. Representative Bullock, glad to have you here. So I want to actually talk about this here. Okay, so this has been the fundamental problem that people have, that you can have your stuff taken, not charged for a crime, and then if you never charge, you don't get your stuff back. That's outlandish.
Absolutely. I mean, we refer to it often as highway robbery because some of these forfeitures were happening in traffic stops. People lose their cars and those things. This practice in Philadelphia was perhaps one of the most abusive forms of the practice across the country. And in 2018, there was a lawsuit that was settled. And many of those who were victims of this practice were allowed or received funds. I think $3 million were returned to citizens. And there is some unclaimed dollars that are being distributed to communities who have been most impacted by these civil asset forfeitures. And you can imagine, just like the criminal justice system disproportionately impacts communities of color, this particular practice overwhelmingly and disproportionately impacted Black and brown communities. And they were losing wealth. They were losing their cars. They were losing their homes. They were losing small amounts of cash that could have been their bus fare for the next week to get back and forth to work.
Okay, so how do you change it? Because I just believe that if you've had cash taken or property taken, if they're holding it, fine, hold it. But if you never get charged by the DA, you never go to trial, nothing ever happens, you should get your stuff back. Why? How in the hell is the city allowed to keep it? And so who has to change it? Is this the state lawmakers? Does the city council change it with the law? How do you fix this?
Well, in this case, it was the courts, right, that made that decision. And in the settlement that made that decision in 2018. And we're starting to see the current district attorney and the police department work together in deciding more judiciously about which property is taken and having a clearer process for residents to claim their property back. What we have found, though, is that if it's a small amount of cash, if it's a small amount or a small value to the property, that if the process is over burdensome or cumbersome, that they're not going to go through that process to hire a lawyer, file paperwork, go to court, miss additional days of work or school to claim a small amount of cash. And so often those dollars are left unclaimed, and that happens often.
Well, this is, again, something that's been happening all across the country that lawmakers have been trying to fix. I assume that because of this report, it's now gotten lots of attention. And so what's the next step? What do you want the people watching to do, whether they're in Philadelphia or other places, to fix this problem?
Right. Talk to your lawmakers, talk to your district attorney offices, because often they have the discretion about how civil asset forfeiture moves forward in your community. Our particular district attorney here in Philadelphia is a progressive district attorney, and so he has said that he's going to look more carefully at these forfeitures, and in the cases in which they have funds in which has not been returned to citizens or has been forfeited because they've been convicted, those funds are now being redistributed into those communities. And so that's the kind of work we want to support and we should be advancing. Pennsylvania also, it's not just Philadelphia, it is across our Commonwealth. There's our state troopers that are engaged in this practice. And so we passed a law in 2017 to have a higher standard of proof for folks to get their resources back, or their cars or their homes. And we should no longer be taking the house of grandma who may not know that her grandson was selling drugs or engaging in illegal activity inside of her home. That should never be a situation if that person, the homeowner, does not know or is not aware of the illegal activity. And so that practice, I believe, has ceased in Philadelphia, and I hope that we can continue to spread that kind of reform throughout the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania and across this country.
All right, Representative Bullock, we certainly appreciate it. Thanks a lot. Hopefully things will change there in Philadelphia and Pennsylvania.
Thank you.
I'm bringing my panel right now, Robert Patillo, Executive Director, Rainbow Push Coalition Peachtree Street Project, Long Victoria Burke, writer with the NMPA and the GRIA, Eugene Craig, CEO, X Factor Media, Inc. Robert, I'll start with you. This whole police asset forfeiture, man, is just crazy. And I'm going to give you a story when it's so funny that we're here in Atlanta. Because the last time we were here for Hope Global Forum, Boosie, the rapper, had about was it $300,000? Was it? It was nearly $300,000 in jewelry that was taken. They had the cops in Biloxi, Mississippi, had stopped his tour bus, and everybody had come off. And one of his guys said, "Yo, Boosie, the bag is on the bus." So and so all of a sudden, the cops got them all out. They searched the bus. They come back. Bag's gone. Cop says, we didn't find anything. Boosie is pissed, distraught. So he had done lots of media. And so what happened was Hashim Nzinga, who knew him, who knew me for a long time, he said, hey, man, I want you to do an interview with Boosie. Boosie went on the radio that morning and said, yo, Biloxi, I'm going to do Roland Martin show on TV One, talk about my missing jewelry. We did the interview. After we finished the interview, 10 minutes they left. 10 minutes they came back, said all of a sudden they found his jewelry. And he was like, so I would appreciate you doing an interview. He said, because when the word went out that I was talking to you, he said all of a sudden my jewelry was found. For days they said they couldn't find the jewelry. They were going to keep the $300,000. And there was no crime. No one had been arrested.
Look, Roland, one, I hope he let you have some of the jewelry, at least a chain or something for your good works in that. But this is nothing new.
I'm good.
Look, this is nothing new. In Atlanta, we call it the Red Dog tax, which is the Red Dog unit used to be a unit of the APD that did some of their more nefarious actions. But pretty much as a criminal defense attorney in Atlanta, you can guarantee that if your client says that they were arrested with 28 grams of cocaine, by the time he gets to the evidence room and to the evidence locker and then presented for trial, you probably want to get that weighed a couple times because more than likely not going to be that amount. I had another case of a rapper right there at Cumberland Mall pulled off in a Lamborghini. They pulled him over immediately because of the two black dudes in a Lamborghini, and the $10,000 that was in the car went missing and never came back, evaporated. Another case of a football player, very similar thing. They raided his home because someone called the cops thinking he was a drug dealer. He was really an NFL player. They took his guns, they took his jewelry, they took his money, and it was all civilly forfeited to the police department. This is a part of police reform that has to be discussed and has to be talked about because often if you're in a high crime neighborhood, neighborhood, if you don't get robbed by the gangs, you might get robbed by the cops on your way home while they're trying to, quote unquote, protect and serve you. So this is one of those issues that there should be federal legislation on, but we can't get the George Floyd Act through, then we're not going to get federal legislation. So you're going to have to start pressuring your state and local governments, particularly your city councils, your district attorneys, and your judges when they're up for re-election. Make sure that they understand this is an issue that has to be dealt with because it's unconstitutional, it's unfair, and quite frankly, they're just robbing you, and they can do it under the color of law.
The thing here, Eugene, is that strange bedfellows, libertarians, Koch Foundation, along the same side as the NAACP and others against police asset forfeiture.
I mean, look, I always identify myself as a libertarian. I've come from the Paul wing of the party, the Paul Steele wing of the party. The thing is this, nothing should be seized or forfeited until there's conviction, right? You're innocent until proven guilty. And you see these strange bedfellows because, some of the white folk and the conservative movement realize this can happen to them, and it has happened to them, right? I remember going to CPAC a couple years ago, and they had literally had a couple breakout discussions on it. I remember walking by in the atrium there at the Gaylord, and there was three white couples there having lunch, and I was at a table next to them and whatnot, and literally they were there trying to figure out how to set up a trust outside of all their other assets in the event that they had a legal situation and their assets were civilly seized and forfeited. So I mean, look, it literally is, legal highway robbery, and it's not just something that's contained to local police departments, state police departments. I mean, I've heard countless stories about folk traveling, going through TSA and going through customs, and this cash that you have that you might want in a casino overseas is being seized. Now you have to navigate their bureaucracy to get your money back, or get your items back, or get your property back. There should be no seizure without a conviction.
The thing here, Lauren, is, all right, okay, cops are suspecting the money, the cars came from drug dealing or illegal means. Fine, prove it. But we know of a number of people who have gotten caught up, nothing illegal, nothing wrong, but they've had their vehicles taken and sold, property never returned. This is simply wrong. If you can have these things happen, I'm sorry, anywhere else, Lauren, we call that theft.
Yeah, absolutely, it's theft. The discussion on civil asset forfeiture has been going on, as far as I know, for at least 20 years. I'm sure that on the federal level, I'm sure that it was going on before that. And typically, the Republicans are the ones that drove the discussion. Henry Hyde had one of the first civil asset forfeiture reform bills in Congress, and then it just sort of went away. And I think Senator Mike Lee had one. Yeah. I'm sure Rand Paul was in on that because, obviously these are all libertarians. And so, of course, they're joined a lot of times by Congressional Black Caucus members, so forth and so on. The problem is there's a marriage, of course, between politicians and the police. And the police oftentimes get what they want. We just saw that happen again on qualified immunity. They really sort of make these conversations go away. And as you mentioned before, a lot of these police departments are being funded by the things that they're stealing via civil asset forfeiture. It's one of these weird due process things. I'm frankly surprised that somebody withstanding hasn't sued. I'm sure they have sued some of these departments and gotten their things back, but it to me sounds like an obvious Fourth Amendment violation. And you're obviously taking people's property without any arrest in some cases, and certainly with no conviction, which is just strange, and getting away with it for a really long time. But of course, there's no recourse, because your first recourse would be the police if you were ripped off. If you're the victim of theft, and of course it's the police that are doing the theft. So it's usually leading to a lawsuit to get the property or the money or whatever it is back.
Well, again, there are efforts to try to stop this all across the country, and we'll see if that happens. Back to our Roland Martin unfiltered video in just one moment.
That spin class was brutal. Well, you can try using the Buick's massaging seat. Ooh, yeah, that's nice. Can I use Apple CarPlay to put some music on? Sure, it's wireless. Pick something we all like. Okay, hold on. What's your Buick's Wi-Fi password? Buick Envision 2021. Oh, you should pick something stronger. That's really predictable. That's a really tight spot. Don't worry, I used to hate parallel parking. Me too. Hey.
Really outdid yourself.
Yes, we did.
The all-new Buick Envision, an SUV built around you. All of
Time to be smart.
Roland Martin's doing this every day.
Oh, no punches!
Thank you, Roland Martin, for always giving voice to the issues.
Look for Roland Martin in the whirlwind, to quote Marcus Garvey again.
The video looks phenomenal, so I'm really excited to see it on my big screen.
Support this man, Black Media. He makes sure that our stories are told.
See, there's a difference between Black Star Network and Black-owned media and something like CNN.
I got to defer to the brilliance of Dr. Carr and to the brilliance of the Black Star Network.
I am rolling with Roland all the way.
Honored to be on a show that you own. A black man owns the show.
Folks, Black Star Network is here.
I'm real revolutionary right now. Roland was amazing on there.
Hey, Black, I love y'all. I can't commend you enough about this platform that you've created for us to be able to share who we are, what we're doing in the world, and the impact that we're having.
Let's be smart. Bring your eyeballs home.
You can't be Black-owned media and be scared. You dig?